Hey guys, today we're going to conclude our polynomials chapter with operations with functions and composition of functions. So we're going to look at this first piece, this first example here. If f of x equals 3x minus 7 and g of x equals 13 minus 2x, find f of x plus g of x. So we're just going to combine like terms. So I'm going to line these up. We're going to add them and get x plus 6. Are some that simple? Yes. So this new function is f plus g of x. So f plus g of x is f of x plus g of x. F minus g of x is f of x minus g of x. F times g of x is f of x times g of x. And f divided by g of x is f of x divided by g of x, understanding that g of x cannot equal 0. So what we're going to do here is we're going to state if there are any restrictions to the domain after we do the operation, and the functions f, g, and h are listed here. So this is f of x plus g of x. So f of x plus g of x is x squared minus 4x plus 1. There is no restriction, so our domain will be negative infinity to infinity. It's just a regular polynomial, so there are no restrictions, no vertical asymptotes, no holes in the graph. F minus h of x. So f of x minus h of x. So that means we change those signs and we get x squared minus 9x plus 2. Again, no restrictions on that domain. It's just a regular polynomial. Multiply h times g of x. So h of x times g of x. FOIL method here, 4x squared minus 3x plus 8x minus 6 is 4x squared plus 5x minus 6. Another polynomial. Quadratic function here, no restriction on the domain. F divided by h, so x squared minus 8x plus 4. And with these, you always want to see if you can factor and cancel, and you can't do that here. You do have a restriction, x cannot equal negative 2. So your interval notation, negative infinity to negative 2, and negative 2 to infinity. H divided by g, x plus 2 divided by 4x minus 3. Domain, x cannot equal 3/4. Negative infinity to 3/4, and 3/4 to infinity. And then f times g of x, we've got x squared minus 8x plus 4 times 4x minus 3 is 4x cubed minus 3x squared minus 32x squared plus 24x plus 16x minus 12. Answer, 4x to the third minus 35x squared plus 40x minus 12. We have a cubic polynomial here with no restriction on the domain. This time, we have some function values that we have to find. And there's a couple of ways to do that. You can do f of negative 2 plus g of negative 2, or you can add the functions together and then plug negative 2 in there. It's completely up to you. I actually did f of negative 2 and g of negative 2 and then added those together. So negative 2 store as x in my calculator. Negative 2 store as x, and I'm looking at the f equation. And I get negative 2. And now the g equation, I get 5, and negative 2 plus 5 is 3. We'll go ahead and store 8, and I'm doing f minus g. So I'm going to do f of 8 and g of 8, and I'm going to be subtracting. So 2x squared minus x minus 12 is 108. And then x plus 7 is 15. And 108 minus 15 is 93. Go ahead and store -1. Multiplying, so f of -1 and g of -1, and you are multiplying. So 2x squared minus x minus 12 is -9. And then -1 plus 7 is 6 to get -54. And then store 5. So we have f of 5 divided by g of 5. F of 5, 2x squared minus x minus 12 is 33 over 12, and that can't be reduced. And the denominator is not equal to 0. So another method to combine functions is called as composition. In a composition, you put one function inside of another function and simplify. A lot of students call this fog. That's fine. F of g of x is also written as f of g of x. They mean the same thing. It's just two different ways to write it. So for number 11, I always write it this way. Leave the letter on the outside, put the value on the inside, then go to the outside equation, and where you see an x, you replace it with what's in your parentheses. Now, x minus 1 cubed. That's x minus 1 times x minus 1 times x minus 1, which is x minus 1 times x squared minus 2x plus 1. And then you would do plus 8 to all of that. So once you simplify this, you do x cubed minus 2x squared plus x minus x squared plus 2x minus 1, and combine like terms, you get x cubed minus 3x squared plus 3x minus 1 plus 8, which is x cubed minus 3x squared plus 3x plus 7. Some of these can get kind of tedious. H of g of x, write the letter on the outside, value on the inside. This one's easy. 5 times x minus 1 minus 3, distributive property, and combine like terms. That one's much nicer than number 11. F of h of x is f of 5x minus 3, which is 5x minus 3 cubed plus 8. When you multiply all of that out, 5x minus 3 times 5x minus 3 times 5x minus 3, you get 25x squared minus 30x plus 9 times 5x minus 3. That's FOIL times another one of those plus 8. When you do your polynomial multiplication, your final answer is 125x cubed minus 225x squared plus 135x minus 19. I will encourage you to work that one out on paper where you have a little more space to double check that you get the answer. I know I didn't do your polynomial multiplication for you. At this point, you should be fairly confident that you can do that on your own. Then in your last step, you just combine your like terms. For number 14, g of f of x, that's g of x cubed plus 8, which is x cubed plus 8 minus 1, which is x cubed plus 7. Now we're going to look at some function values. This is g of h of 2. So we're going to find h of, look, watch how this works. We're going to find h of 2. So we go to the h equation and we plug in a 2. 10 minus 3 is 7. And then we find g of 7. 7 minus 1 is 6. So you just plug in one function into another. So h of f of negative 6, you also want to work from the inside out. So we do f of negative 6. That's negative 6 cubed plus 8, negative 208. So h of negative 208, negative 208 times 5 and minus 3 is negative 1,043. This concludes our chapter on polynomials. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. I hope you guys have a great day.